2 p.m. So can we do a roll call, please?
Roll call, we have Richard Beck,
Here.
Skip Kaiser,
Kaiser, yeah, here.
Kaiser, Kevin Brooks,
Present.
thank you, Scott Warren. I see you need to unmute.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Barb Franco.
Barb let us know that she would be absent today. She's, I believe, on a vacation.
Okay. Also, it appears at this time, Jason is not present. Jill Barwick.
Present, and thank you, Melanie, also for your emails today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, and staff, we have Michael Pearson,
Present.
Kelly Jurgensen,
Present.
Carlos Villafuerte, council,
Present.
Rob Minguella. I think he's muted.
He's here digitally.
I see him digitally. And Melanie Rashbaum Griffiths is present. We also have Megan with IT as our support.
Okay, I did talk to Jason a couple times today and he was going to be present. So maybe he's just mastering technology.
Megan, do you see anyone else trying to sign on?
I just noticed Jay Graham was on the attendees, and I think that's Jason Gramlich,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
thank
so just promoted him over.
Jason, we're doing roll call. Jason Gramlich.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Megan, could you let us know if we have any members of the public today?
We currently have 0. Everyone who joined on the public link was a panelist that got promoted over.
Thank you. If that changes, just let us know.
Will do.
Okay, with that, we have established a quorum. Congratulations, everybody. Acceptance of the agenda. So the focus of today is to put the finishing touches on the 2019-2020 annual report. At least that's the hope. In addition to a brief update on projects. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
I move, accept the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Jason seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? All right, so the agenda is accepted. Next item is the approval of the minutes. So with the email from last Friday came the minutes from last time, which were resent. They were originally issued after the meeting last time. Do we have any comments on the meeting minutes from the March 10th meeting? Okay.
Nope.
I'm going to take that as no. All right. Do we have a motion to accept or approve the minutes rather?
So moved.
Okay, Jill. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Richard, you're so good to me.
Thanks, Kim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, we will skip the formality of reading the paragraph for item 5 on the agenda, as we have no members of the audience of the public present. Item number 6 on the agenda, we're gonna skip that because that's part of our work here today. Okay, and then let's move on to item 7, project updates. And with that, we'll turn that over to Kelly et al.
All right, thank you. So we did want to take an opportunity to share with the committee a project update that we have shared with the Board of Trustees on Thursday's meeting. Just give you a little update. I know we have a lot of heavy lifting to do today, so we're going to keep it specific to one project. So if you did not get an opportunity to do so already, we shared some slides from a presentation that was given to the board, as I mentioned. When we give a presentation to the board, we always align it with the district's strategic goals. In this case, that is goal 4, tactical, proactive, and efficient asset management. And in this presentation, we're going to give an update on the American Canyon Middle School Student Commons Project, which is often in your documents called the new MPR. We changed the name to Student Commons because the project really is about more than just a multi-purpose room. And you'll see some more information on that in a second. And give an update on where we are at with design approval, some of the work that we did around temporary housing as programs were displaced due to the construction, and give you a little update on what's going on with demolition and next steps for the project. So here are some renderings. We're in the process of getting decided on paint colors, but despite the paint color selection, it gives you a good idea of what the new building is going to look like. I know you guys have seen a few of these already, but we've really refined the design. As of today, we are certified by the Division of the State Architect. So we have our drawings approval for new construction. So that's good news. Give you a little idea of what it looks like. This will replace the current cafeteria that was on campus. Little look on the inside. So the Wildcat Cafe area here is where students would be picking up food service. And then just some different layouts. This isn't exactly the furniture we'll buy or anything like that, but it gives everybody an idea of the space within that building. And this is this is what would be called the multi-purpose room. But in addition to that, you can see there is some connectivity to an adjacent library space and a multi-use classroom that could be used for STEM or for meeting spaces. And these dividers that you see in the top left corner that is kind of form a stage. And then behind that, there is a connection to that multi-use classroom, which allows like a backup stage area too. So it has a lot of versatility in the building. Now, when we started on this project, we also had to do quite a bit of creative thinking around temporary facilities. The site, as anybody who's been there has noticed, it's quite small and landlocked. So we did not want to spend a lot of the bond dollars for this project on putting up temporary housing because it's A, a waste of money, and B, there's not that much space. So we got a little creative. What you're looking at right now is what used to be the library in the middle of campus. So just for the cost of replacing the carpeting with some flooring, we worked with one of our vendors to just get remnants, pieces that he can't get rid of because we didn't care what the pattern looked like. We were able to do a minimal amount of cost and get a temporary kitchen in our old library building. And this got high marks from the county health department. He was really pleased with the setup that we put in place. It allows for some of the students to sit inside and get their food. So that was a nice compromise that didn't cost a lot of money. Here is a look at that library. The contents of the library was shifted to 2 portables that were not being used at the campus. In later phases of the project, the portables will be demolished. So we relocated the library with a lot of coordination between the site librarian and the project team to get her comfortable and settled in. So she's got a library space here in this portable that you're looking at right now, and the portable right next to her she uses for storage so that she can allow to have some space for students to be in the room as well. And here's a look at the site. As we close things off, you can see the construction fencing in green. And because we were taking over the outdoor food area, we set up some new eating areas on the grass and around what used to be the library and is now the temporary cafeteria. So we spread students out. When we get back to normal operating procedures, students can eat indoors in that building or they can eat outside just like they did before. So it gives little options. You can see in that bottom right, construction fencing and making sure we have enough pathway space and things like that. So really rethinking the layout of the site during the project. Oh, if I do it this way, I don't get to show you all my fun demolition pictures that fly in the slideshow. Hold on one second. I want to make sure that I give you the full experience here. There we go. So we got set up a couple weeks ago. And that is what used to be the shade overhang over the outdoor eating space. And this was the existing cafeteria. And it's going away. And now we have a nice clean site ready for our new project. All right, so what to expect moving forward. As far as giving this presentation to the public and to the board, it was important for us to just look a short-term look ahead for 6 months. Obviously, the project's going to take longer than that, but we just wanted to know what to expect in the near future. So the demolition of the buildings occurred in April, as noted, and DSA approval did happen. So we're all set there this week. Construction now will be ongoing on the new facility. And in the next couple of months, believe it or not, we'll start planning for summer of 2022 when we do the final stage of work at the site. We have really had a great collaborative relationship with the design build entity for this project, who is Arntz Builders and PBK Architects. And it's been so far so good, a smooth experience and very timely. So we've been really happy with the outcome. And Mike, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, I think you covered it all. I mean, we'll certainly take a couple questions if anybody has a couple general questions.
Sure.
This demolition happened in April last month.
Yes.
Were there students there then?
Yes.
How disruptive was the demolition?
Got zero complaints. We got zero complaints, Richard.
From the neighbors either?
There's really not too many neighbors, thank goodness. But yes, we got zero complaints. We did prep the staff that it was going to be quite noisy, and they've been incredibly flexible with everybody. So it's been really good. So I think they're actually some of the comments I heard, it was exciting to see it be demolished. So I think
it's always exciting. Demolition is always exciting. Yeah.
No, but everyone's been really cooperative.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
And I would also say that the contractor was really focused on efficiency and getting the work done as quickly as humanly possible, so that impact, while it was pretty yucky to be there for a few days, they just tried to lessen how much was going on, getting a lot of people mobilized on the site, get it done and get it off. So that was helpful as well.
Are you seeing any escalation issues with commodities and materials?
Oh, we definitely are, but not on this project. And the reason for that is with the design build methodology, the contractor is locked into his guaranteed maximum price at the time of contract award. So because this project was negotiated in, I think September, don't quote me on that, but we're locked into that price. Now that doesn't mean that things can't change if the owner drives a change in the project, by adding scope, or if there's an unforeseen, but the unforeseen isn't material cost. The unforeseen would be, you dig up a dinosaur bone or something like that. So right now, because of the delivery method, really it is up to Arntz Builders to mitigate those material costs. And it's not something that is impacting this particular project.
What's the contingency percentage that the contractor has in his GMP, his or her GMP?
I can get back to you on that. I do not know that off the top of my head.
Okay, we don't have to answer that now, Kelly. We can answer that next time. But...
Sure.
Okay. Will they go bankrupt?
No, I don't think they'll go bankrupt.
Extraordinary cost differences in the last couple of months.
Yeah, it has been pretty serious, but I know that it's a very reputable contractor, and part of doing these design build projects are making sure that they not only have the contingency you're tracking, but they build themselves in a cushion as well too. So I think they're managing it rather well, but they are recognizing that they are tightening the belt.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. All right, thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
And Mike. All right, so let's move on to item 8, which is the annual report. So I guess a couple housekeeping items before we jump into it. Excuse me. So everyone should have received a PDF of the report as it existed last Friday.
Yeah.
And in it, so that's one document we're going to be working from today. In addition to that, everyone should have got their own customized Google Docs, Excel workbook, if I have that correct, with specific comments, and those specific comments were essentially included in 3 different worksheets within the workbook by preceding year of the annual report. So 16 through 17, 17 through 18, and 18 through 19. And so Kelly, this is where I think I need some help. So for those that made comments in that Google Doc, that is live, and you should be able to see that on your end, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's also just a way for if the comments would have been made like a couple weeks in advance, then we would have incorporated them into the report. We didn't receive any that early in advance, which is fine. Just means that today we go over whatever was written and we incorporate it into the report now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so we can open them up individually, or the folks who did populate their sheets or have some notes, you know, even a handwritten note that you have that you want to share, just let us know and we'll start to populate that during this meeting.
Okay. Okay. So any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone as far as the documents that are at our disposal?
Before we dive in, I will just let the committee know that Skip did give me several editorial style notes on the report. I won't sort of go into all of those in great detail, but some of them were just comments on consistent labeling of the pie charts and items like that. Organization, he made the suggestion to put 1 pie chart on each page and things like that. So some of those editorial comments on how we label things and things like that will incorporate into the final draft of the report. So I appreciate his comments. And there were a lot of them. So, you know, at his behest, we're not going to go through every single one of them because some of them are not material to the content. They're just to make things a little polished up.
Right. So I think along those lines, right? So, I mean, Kelly, you guys use, or DSE uses non-material altering and material altering, right? In their designation, I'm assuming on your change orders with the state. We're going to do the same thing here. If there's editorial things that are non-material altering to the report or the intent of the report, we'll clean those up prior to final issuance. If there's items that are cardinal or material altering to the intent of the report, we'll get those cleaned up today. At least that's the hope.
Yep.
So my thought was we'd address this, the sequence that we'd go through this is in 3 steps, right? We'd address the front end of the report, we'd address any specific comments, and then we'd go through the appendices last.
Can I ask you a question, Kevin? Now, this is not, this is available, reports can be available for anybody in the community, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what, because there were some things I thought maybe it could be a little clearer for
Okay.
people who don't understand it.
Right, and right. So the report is, so we finalize the report, then it gets presented to the Board of Trustees, hopefully when they're in a relatively good mood and not yelling at me. And then once it is taken to the Board of Trustees, it gets published.
So, and they'll be online so anybody can look at it.
Correct.
Yeah, so just for a bit of context, right now, if you were to go to the NVUSD website, can everybody see the website right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So if you're at the NVUSD website, this is just the main page, and you go down here to Measure H.
Right.
Click that, and then we've got the Bond Oversight Committee.
Yes.
And then you can always find your meeting documents here, which is all of the Google folders, all of the information. But if you want a direct link, you can always go to the annual reports. And here are the past annual reports. So once approved by the board, we would add another folder for the 1920 annual report, and it would live here and always be available to the public. It's also secondarily available via the agenda online. And so it's archived with the district board meeting agendas as well. So it's actually in 2 different places. In the meantime, the one that we're looking at today, I've lost my place. There we go. Is also the PDF is available in your Google folder, and that's also available to the public. So the working draft that we're working on today also is available to the public for anyone who really wanted to dive deep.
Last week at some point, Kelly, when you clicked on the bond oversight with the second one down, it didn't, nothing came up last week.
Oh, okay. Maybe there was an issue with the website that day or
Later,
something.
later on it came, yeah, but.
Okay, great.
Okay. With that, let's jump off or jump in. All right. So Kelly, I'm just going to let you steer.
Okay, sounds good. So this is just the cover page, same that we've used in the past. And then one thing, table of contents is highlighted yellow because I am not going to change this until the very, very, very end, because obviously we're going to continue to make changes during this meeting. So this is, you know, roughly what's in the report, but it's not accurate because we haven't finalized yet.
Right. So with the exception of the appendices, the table of contents is just going to follow the same cadence and order as last time.
Absolutely.
Or as in the previous annual reports. Okay.
Size wise, are we doing okay for everybody looking on Zoom, or do you want me to make it a little bigger?
I think I'm good. I don't know about anybody else. Okay, so section 1 is the statement of compliance. Again, boilerplate. Section 2 is how to attend the meetings. And I don't know. Okay, we probably don't need to update that relative to Zoom. That's probably generic enough. I'm sorry, can you scroll back up a minute, Kelly? Okay, all right. Lucky me. All right, section 3, how to obtain information on Measure H. I'm assuming that link is still good. The www. Okay. And
real quick, you did do Zoom meetings during the fiscal year 1920. So if you want me to add that, you know, something that's like, I don't know, Carlos, I know that there's a statement that our Board of Education reads it says, you know, due to the governor's waiving of the Brown Act requirements, blah, 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 the meeting is Zoom. I mean, we could put that in there if you guys feel like that's important.
We should probably do that just to be in compliance. We want to make sure our barrister in residence is happy and not grumpy.
Well, you know, it's probably also worth saying, because the governor's order that allows you guys to conduct these meetings entirely online is a little bit open-ended as to when that allowance is lifted and now you're obligated to hold your meetings in person. So it might be worth adding a statement that the committee intends to meet via Zoom until social distancing measures are lifted and the governor's order by number is no longer effective.
Okay.
So I can send you some jargon if you'd like, Kelly.
I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Then we move on to section 3, which is how to get information. Again, that's boilerplate from last year. And I assume Kelly, I assume on the right-hand side, on the right-hand side, click on the Measure H Bond OC agenda icon. I assume that is, that verbiage is the same on the webpage currently.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. All right, and then we have the
Oh, I guess
report.
it's sort of in the middle now. We changed it slightly. I'll,
Okay,
I'll
just-
rework this language.
Okay, we just may need to tweak that.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. And then we have section 4, which is the so that's the outline of the appendices, which will tweak as we go through the appendices.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Section 4.1 is the responsibilities. Again, this is templated. None of this is new. You can add a section here for Richard as our comedian in residence. I'm just kidding. Okay. I know, don't egg him on. Okay. Okay, section 4.2. Again, this is all boilerplate. The one, let's go back here. So item number 5, right? Understanding Measure H and NBUSD Facilities Master Plan. To better understand the report of the NBUSD Measure H Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, it is important to understand the role of the 269 million Measure H bond revenue plays in the larger scope of the 505-082-461 District Master Plan from March 2016. It may be appropriate to add a sentence here that says something that the, what do we call them now? The implementation plans?
And maybe something like, since that time, the district has issued subsequent implementation plans, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
See, and these, see appendix, whatever
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
appendix is, right?
Sorry, I'm checking what section I'm in. 1 sec.
Appendix B. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to keep moving on. If that's okay, Kelly.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then we'd have the
That's
background on
really
Measure.
all still part of section 5.
Yeah. So we
It's
have
sort of
the
a long
background.
one.
Yep. Okay. Okay. And then we get into the meat and potatoes. So to set the table here, right? All of the data came from Key Analytics, right?
Correct.
So that's the,
Well, just to be fair, it's a compilation between Key Analytics when I need that kind of granular detail, like something like here where I'm sorting by site. And then some of the ones that are more like, how is it funded? Those are from just the approved
Okay,
implementation
okay,
plan. So
okay,
it's a combo
okay.
of both documents.
but I guess it's the, and Carlos, don't worry, we will get to the, which implementation plan do we include, but it's a combination of the implementation plan data and the costs that are in Key Analytics.
Exactly. Mhm.
That's our universe of the Rosetta Stone, right?
Yep.
Okay, so graphic number 1 is, and this may be out of order. This may be what we're talking about. So this is money committed or encumbered by category of school.
Yes, and I think to your point, Skip had made the suggestion of making chart 2 the first chart, which is sort of a material suggestion. I think Kevin and I both agreed with that.
Yeah, that I think
Okay.
that's what I think I screwed that up. So chart 2 as shown here would become chart 1.
So just for the sake of clarity, we'll go to this one and then go back to that one.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so this essentially says, hey, we have well, in this case, we have, okay, so we have the 269 plus the difference in developer fees and what other else state funds there are, right? So that gives us a total current budget of 293 and change, right?
Yes, and a couple other material suggestions that I'll just let everybody know that Skip had made that I thought were pretty valuable was, first of all, defining like a quick cliff notes of the funds,
Yes.
which I think would be really good. So I will add that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, somebody reading off of this would think fund, what's 20, fund 40? I mean, yeah. And it doesn't have to be too specific, but just where the money comes from.
Sounds good. And then the other thing that Skip brought up that I thought was important is that, so the Measure H annual report covers the Measure H funds. So what it is it's your 269 plus interest, right? So the following charts that we show, so this is showing our overall implementation plan. It's really our capital improvement plan because it includes funds that are not monitored or under the oversight of this committee. So the annual report is specifically focused on the Measure H funds. So Skip had raised the question, well, if I add up all of these other funds that are, these other pie charts together, it comes up to much less than the total in this chart. And that's because in this chart, just for the sake of context, we're showing everybody how much we're spending in our entire capital improvement program. But every other chart you see in this entire report is only focused on Measure H because that is what this committee's charge is. So I think what we need to do to make sure that the public understands that would be to have an introductory paragraph that explains that concept with this chart, which is all the more reason to have this chart go first. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
So we would, by the strict letter of the law, Measure H would be Fund 21 and Fund 25?
No, it would only be Fund 21.
But yet we wouldn't have Fund 40, 35, and 25 without Measure H. So in a sense, it's part of Measure H. I mean, those would be non-existent, wouldn't they?
No, that's not accurate. Fund 25 is developer fees, which the
Okay.
district collects on a regular basis.
All right.
Fund 40 can be funded through dispensation of property, outside donations, and a lot of other resources that are earmarked for capital improvement. Fund 35 is money that we receive from the state. It does not necessarily tie to the bond program. I mean, in some cases, we are getting reimbursement for not even reimbursement, we call it reimbursement, but it's basically the state gives us money that for projects that we've spent, but those funds are not dependent on Measure H by definition, if that makes sense.
Then I think you should definitely make some comments. We're not
Okay,
talking
we'll do.
296 or 3, they're talking 269.
Yeah, it's a pretty big difference. I think when you add the interest in, that 269 as of that fiscal year became 273 or something like that. So I will definitely write up some language and then run it by Kevin that addresses this issue so that everyone's really clear on the difference between this chart and all the other ones.
Okay, let me ask my question more precisely. So Fund 21 includes the base 269 plus the interest?
Correct.
Okay, and Fund 25 are developer fees?
Fund 25 are developer fees, which anybody who does construction on anything over 500 square feet in Napa has to pay a developer fee to the district, and contractors are in our office all the time making those fees. And then Fund 35 receives money from the state for any state programs that we might get funding for. And Fund 40 is really a mixed bag, but it is dedicated to capital improvement.
So Carlos, our barrister in residence, do you agree that Funds 35 and 40 would be outside the purview of the committee of the Measure H?
In terms of your responsibility for reaching conclusions about those expenditures, yes.
Okay. All right. We'll table that for now. But yes, I think this chart needs to go first, and I think there needs to be an introductory paragraph and a key.
Absolutely. Done.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, if you guys could give me 5 seconds. Oh, thank you, Skip. I'm just going to go and refill my water bottle. I can barely talk. I'm so thirsty. So talk amongst yourselves for 20 seconds.
Richard.
What's up, Kim? How you doing?
Is there a contact list, like if I need to call one of you, that's available to us?
Yes, it is somewhere on the website. I can't tell you where, but I'm sure Kelly can.
Okay, because I know I found the list of who everybody was, but no contact information.
Okay. That may be kept in the safe. We'll have to ask Kelly when she gets back.
Okay,
But,
thank you for your patience. Sorry about that.
Jill was asking if we have a contact list with our ability to contact each other. We had one once upon a time, right? That got sent out. I don't know if that's still on the, I don't know that it was ever on the website. I thought it was on the website, but
I don't know. Maybe that was before my time, or at least not in my
it might have
purview.
been. It might have been.
I can totally develop one, as long as everybody is comfortable with sharing their information with each other.
I thought it was emails that we had at one point.
We had emails and cell phones.
Yeah.
Because I have you all programmed. So anyway.
So as long as everyone's comfortable with that, that's fine. The only request that I will make, that I know Carlos will support me on, is no group emails. So, you know, in the development of the report, you know, Kevin would like to call Skip and get his input on one little piece. That's totally fine. But if all of a sudden, you know, Richard is sending an email to all of you and saying, reply all with your thoughts on the report, now we're violating the Brown Act. So we can definitely share everybody's contact information if they're comfortable with it. I just want to make sure that we're using it in the right way. Do I have all that right, Carlos?
Yeah, and make sure that it's not individual contacts sharing the opinions of other members. So if you know, call one person and then you call another one, well, he said this, what do you think about that? That starts becoming a serial meeting too, so.
So maybe at the top, you should put no phone trees and no group contacts.
Sounds good. I like it. So
Right.
yeah, we can definitely develop a contact list, not a problem.
I don't care about developing a contact list. That's fine as long as it stays among the members of the committee or
Right.
staff. I just want to see my phone numbers on the website.
Yeah, we will keep it off the website.
You don't want us to say, if you have any questions or concerns about the bond program, contact Skip Kaiser directly?
Okay.
Okay.
I think Mike would be in favor of that.
And try to call him after 9 o'clock at night, because he likes to talk then.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Kelly, we'll put that on your to-do list, please. Let's move back to chart number 1, which will be now chart number 2. So what we're saying is that as of 2019, the end of the 2019-2020 fiscal year, excuse me, so roughly as of last June,
Yes, so it would have been June 30th of 2020.
that we have encumbered 192 million and change.
Why does it say February?
The February, I'm sorry, that, and maybe I need to change that because it looks like it's part of this, but it should be its own title.
Above it, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think switching the order of the charts is going to fix that.
Okay.
So I'm going to highlight that so I remember to adjust it. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to point out, which was a good suggestion by Skip, and actually Kevin, it kind of came up when you and I talked too, is combining district-wide services and district facilities, because those two are kind of the same thing. And it's like 0.5%. So it might make the chart a little cleaner. So I can definitely do that.
What is the difference?
It has to do with how the projects are coded. So if there is a service provider, there are some service providers that were providing service for like a myriad of projects. So it was district wide. And then there is district facilities, which would be anything that was spent at the district office, or the main chunk of that is the new central kitchen, because that's a district facility. So those two do make sense being together, and it's such a small percentage. The other thing that Skip had mentioned is more detail in the titles of each one of those. That's a little difficult for me to accomplish with the program I'm using that's exporting this pie chart. So what I can do is I can define those in like in, you know, in a key or something so that they're the same everywhere. And I will get rid of some of the ones that are cut off and there's like ellipses and little things like that. But I will define these better. And then I like the idea of combining the two district items into one.
Gotcha. Good.
Okay, so this chart, obviously the intent is to show what has been spent based on school type. Obviously the vast majority is elementary. Any questions here? Okay. At the risk of disrailing the discussion relative to chart number 1, what is now chart number 1, what is currently chart number 2, would there be of any benefit to have a bar chart that says how much, or I'm sorry, relative to chart number 1, this chart here, Kelly, that by fiscal year X number of dollars was spent. So in other words, if you had a bar chart that showed not by necessarily school type, but just aggregate, right? 2016 to 17, we spent 15 million. 2017 to 18, we spent 100 million. 2018
Sure, we can do
to
that.
19, we spent 100 million.
Absolutely. So my question would be, there's two ways to look at it. There's expenditure and encumbrance.
Oh, well, we should be consistent with whatever we, yep. We should be consistent with whatever, we should use encumbrances.
Okay, yeah, because that's what we've been using to date.
And then you add them all up and you realize, oh, we still got, we still got $72 million got to spend yet, right? I mean, essentially. From here.
Yeah, it's all budgeted. You know what I mean? It's allocated to projects, but yes, it's still liquid.
If you don't, maybe we can spend it all next year, but maybe it'll go on to 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, theoretically.
No.
Well, we're spending it, Richard.
I know that you are. I know. Oh, we know that, but
absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, unless anybody has any objections to that or any comments, I just thought that might provide some good oversight on the historical consumption of funds. All right, Miss Kelly.
Writing a note on that chart. Okay, so we've gone through 2 now. We'll go over to number 3. So you guys will also see some color variations here. I kind of tried to consider the comments from the last meeting about how the colors changed a lot. So just for the sake of clarity, these two have different color schemes because I'm trying to keep away from this first color scheme. So, middle, elementary, and high, anytime I break it by a site type, I'm using the same color. So then I had to get a little creative to make sure anytime I made a new subject, I made it a different color so that we were following the same color pattern, because I know that's something that the committee members had asked for. So that's why this has a different color scheme.
Okay.
I like this, Kelly. I think I'm going to paint my bathroom this color scheme, actually.
I like this one too.
You too.
All right, Richard, it's good that you're not an architect. All right. So this is just the allocation of the bond by category number 3. I think that makes sense, both in content as well as sequence in the chart sequence. And then we move, unless anybody has any comments there. All right, then we move on to chart 4. So then comes each of the individual categories. So each of the categories listed in chart 3 in turn get broken out by school type in the subsequent charts. So that's the intent, right, Kelly? I said that right? Okay.
Yeah, there's an exception to technology, but when we get there, we'll show it to you.
Okay. So this chart shows that the elementary schools received the bulk of the funding for modernization and construction, and there was no projects slated for the middle schools.
Yeah, and this is specific to seismic. So
Correct.
This is
Correct.
And the reason why that's important is because it's disproportionately elementary schools, because obviously we have 2 all new site builds in this bucket of money, which would be Napa Junction and snow. So that's why the majority of the money lands there.
Okay. Okay, and then these are emergency projects, right?
Mhm.
Fixing air,
Relatively small dollar amount.
right, fixing air handler units before they implode. For
Yeah.
example,
Yeah, I think Shear, West Park, and then there were some issues at the Harvest quad.
okay. Okay, and then the next category is modernization and construction in general. Okay,
American Canyon Middle School, part of that middle, is that?
It is the expenditures that were done before the project was canceled
yeah.
live within that red section, yes. And as does the new project at American Canyon, at the existing American Canyon,
Fits in
the
there.
one I just gave you the information on.
so that's in here, in the red?
Yeah.
Which means it was encumbered by June 30th of last year.
No, this is budget.
Oh, budgets, I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mhm.
So approximately 60 million was spent on the middle schools then? It looks like, right? Because it's 124, half of that, which is middle. Is
Yeah.
that my,
Actually,
Yeah,
one-
I'd have to run the report.
Kelly, one of the things,
because they budgeted for the American Canyon middle schools in that. That's that $40 million for American Canyon Middle School, right?
we'd have to look at the report. We'd have to run.
budget. This is budget. They originally budgeted that back in.
No, I don't know, because the implementation plan we're working off of right now. So hold on one second. Let me show you that real quick. Oh, I'm not going to be able to find it there. Where am I going to find it? I'm going to find it here because I have to make sure we're working off of the right one.
All right.
So if I go here. This is the budget that this report works off of.
And
So
this will also be,
modernization and new construction. Oh, I'm sorry. Duh. The reason it's so high is because River's in there.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
So there's your 124 that we were just looking at, and it's broken down here. So you've got a couple of big items in middle schools here. You've got River, you've got the design and planning costs for the American Canyon Middle School that was canceled,
yeah,
but
okay.
then you also have the new American Canyon Middle School project.
Okay, thanks.
So hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, well, now we know.
Yep.
So Kelly, one thing we talked about was in addition to the percentages listing the dollar values.
Yes, we can do that.
I mean, I know that's work, but that may help.
Okay.
But River School's not gonna be a middle school anymore, are they? Isn't that the latest? Mike probably knows that better than me, but.
We'll
But
come back.
no matter what happens next, you have to remember this is a snapshot from fiscal year 1920.
We'll-
So
we'll-
it is definitely in that frame. It's a middle school. Whatever happens next, Mike can talk to that.
And we'll defer that until we get done with this assignment.
Sorry, Mike.
I'm sure there'll be much lively discussion about that. Okay, so Kelly, if you can scroll back up. So number 6 is a budget. Number 5 is a budget, right? Chart number 5.
Yeah, sorry, I was writing myself a note about adding the
Adding the dollars. I know we're
Skip's doing another time check. Here, let's check our agenda real quick. So we are.
This is the last item on the agenda.
Yeah, I think it is.
This is the last item on the agenda.
Yeah, annual report. So we do have 50 minutes of our hour and a half devoted to that. So I think we have
about 40 minutes left.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay because we don't have a lot of other items after this. Okay, so let's go back here. And you wanted to scroll up, Kevin?
Yeah, just so, yeah, no, this is whoop. Okay, well, 4's fine. That's budget. Okay, so these are all budgets.
Yes.
We've moved from encumbrance to budget.
Allocations. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, all right, let's go to 7.
Okay.
Okay, this is This is what it is. And we
Yeah,
have
fencing.
8.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is the one I just wanted to give the context around. For the
This is Richard's
technology,
color palette for his bathroom.
yeah, nice
Like bedroom.
calming pastels in this one. For this one, what we did is rather than divide it by site, which is very difficult because a lot of the technology that came in, it wasn't delineated by site. You know, the technology pieces come to the technology department and then are distributed. So the system doesn't really split it that way. It seemed more valuable to split it by type of project rather than by site. So you can see how much is allocated to front of classroom versus one-to-one devices and so forth.
Okay, any questions on this, folks? Okay,
No, sir.
and again, we would add dollars next to the percentages, however we get that to format that way.
Yep, I'll apply that note to all of them.
Okay, then we go to number 9.
Yeah. This one.
Okay, so this is this is essentially the management costs through the fiscal year ending in June of 2020, right, Kelly?
Again, these are, yeah, budgeted costs. So these are the allocations. As you can see, I was really running out of color palette here.
Okay. So this is against the 269 million or the 269 million, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're saying 20 million of the 269 is in management.
I'm sorry, to be clear, it's 269 plus interest again. So if you're like,
Right.
the shorthand is it's like 273 or something, just to be super clear.
Is there any definition for program contingency versus miscellaneous improvements? This sounds like one of my.
Yeah, and to Skip's comment, I will put definitions for each one of those.
Right.
Program contingency is exactly what it sounds like. It's contingency, it's unallocated money that gets either, you know, pulled in if a project goes over budget or given back if a project goes under budget, and both of those things occur. And then miscellaneous improvements or small scale projects that were performed early in the bond program and in miscellaneous expenses. So it is a bit of a catch-all, and I will develop some more eloquent language to describe that and maybe give you some bullet points with some examples.
But it's considered, the improvements are considered management?
No, well, yes, that's the bucket it's in. So
But
because
that
it had
bucket-
small, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that bucket is based on coding, right?
Yes, it's based on coding, exactly. And how where it's placed in the implementation plan. So if you go back to your implementation plan, which I think I had handy still, darn it if I closed it. Nope, I didn't. So we're in the capital improvement bucket. Yeah. So that's what this is. And you know what, it might be good to define in the beginning of, you know, when we dive into these charts, to say that these charts are divided in conjunction with the UIP. So I can make that change.
I mean, because so the green here is you guys, right?
It's not just us.
No, I understand it.
Yeah,
But
it includes other
miscellaneous
consultants as well.
I mean, but if early in the program you replaced some bathroom fixtures, that's improvement and that's considered management. I mean,
Well, I mean, I think I'm just going to jump in here, Kelly, because
Please do.
we talked about this. This would be your PM&R. Miscellaneous improvements would be PM&R projects.
Yes.
So it's really small, whatever, replace an exhaust fan or replace a sink, or it's, you know, and this gets, you know, so Richard, this gets to how you set up your coding to begin
it's
with.
not really management, but it's, yeah, I got you.
I
Okay.
mean, so this is how the coding got set up. You know, I guess looking forward or looking back, maybe there would be a different way to do it, to put that into a different bucket. But that's again, the Rosetta Stone is the key analytics report plus the current implementation plans.
And miscellaneous improvement does sound better than slush fund.
Yeah,
All right.
or you know, small. I think at one point we called it small projects or something.
Right.
So
Wouldn't this be solved by just changing the title to say capital improvement management costs / small capital projects?
yeah, we could do that. Absolutely.
Yep, perfect. All right.
Carlos, that's why you're the brains of the outfit.
High praise.
Yeah, from me, right.
I won't even, okay. All right, chart number 10.
One second. Sorry, you guys. I want to make sure that I take all these copious notes. So in that one, we decided to change the title of chapter 9, chart 9. I'll do a key like I will with all of these, but with a little bit of detail on the miscellaneous improvements. Was there anything else on this one?
I don't have anything else.
Oh, I know what I was gonna make a note at the top that says that the titles tie back to the UIP, just so that that's super clear. Okay, then. One moment. All
Okay.
right.
So this is hard costs versus soft costs, right? If you define hard costs as construction and soft costs is anything that's not construction. Right?
Correct. And Skip made a recommendation for a change in title on those as well to give it a little more detail. And hold on one second, let me find that note. There we go. So Skip made the recommendation to change what I was calling consultant. I changed it from hard and soft because I feel like that's a very industry term and it's not something everyone will understand. And then he made the recommendation to change consultant to design.
Yeah.
I think that says inspection. I'm sorry, Skip. I'm having trouble reading your handwriting. It says design something consultant. Do you recall what you wrote there?
You might be
No,
muted.
I've got a stack of paper here. I'm leafing through real quick.
I think
This
it says INSP. I think you meant inspection. It's on page 11.
I'll tell you what, I'll send you it after. I've got a series of notes anyway.
Okay, yeah, that's
Send
fine.
it afterwards when I think.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll hone in on a title for consultant that's a little more comprehensive.
Okay, any questions about this chart, folks?
For what it's worth, it was design, inspection, and consulting.
Thank you. When we developed this chart, Kevin did ask me how this sort of compares to industry standard. And the response that I gave is if someone were to call me tomorrow on the phone and say, I have $1 million and I'd like to do a school construction project, I would tell them that approximately 700,000 of it is going to go to construction and 300,000 of it is going to go to soft costs. So it's a quick 70-30 rule. So it's sort of in alignment with that.
Okay. All right.
And we get to the hard stuff.
Now we get to the fun stuff. So just to set the table, I guess, does anybody have any specific comments? And does anybody have any new specific comments that are not covered by specific comments in previous years?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Didn't you sent something around? We had some comments on some of this stuff earlier, didn't we?
Right. So there's.
Right in front of us.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking that question is because if no one has any specific comments, if no one has any new specific comments for the 1920 report that aren't covered or related to, with emphasis on related to, previous specific comments in previous annual reports, then we should probably rethink moving all the specific comments from previous annual reports to the appendix and pull them back into the body of the report. So in other words, my assumption is that any of the comments we have are related to previous specific comments. Any of the comments we have for the 1920 report are related to specific comments from previous annual reports. Fair statement, folks?
That's what you're asking. That's why you're asking anything new. Okay, I see.
Right, right.
Uh,
Okay.
So
So-
the question is here. I sent you an email, Kevin, with a spreadsheet on there
Yep.
that summarized all, yeah, okay. So the thought was, let me add a couple of words here. The thought was that in the absence of any substantive new comments or not any of them, what we probably do, the people read this report, whoever they are, a service by summarizing the outstanding previously reported specific comments. Now, some of them, like where we applauded the fact that the trustees were agreeable to changing the bylaws as we suggested and all that, don't need any further combination or comments. But there are a handful, I count them as 8, there could be more or less. There are about 8 outstanding previous specific comments, which we either don't agree with the Board of Trustees response or they're active for some other reason ongoing. And those we ought to condense and put into section 4.3 in my view of the world.
And for 1 second, Skip, while you guys are talking, I stopped sharing for a second because I'm searching my email for your email, and I'm going to screen share that document so that others can see it. Just give me 1 second and you guys can continue discussing.
And Skip, to add on to that, I was thinking similarly, and I was thinking of color coding them. So if an item is closed, it'd be green. If an item is being worked on, or there's some active item, some active issue that we understand action is being taken on, it would be yellow. And if there's no action being taken on it, we could make it red, right? But something to
Visual King is always helpful. Let me jump in here and say to Kelly, you ought to be looking for the spreadsheet that's labeled revision 1, because that's the one that's most germane. My concern was just that we don't give the impression that all these things that we reported on in the past have been miraculously solved. And is that the one that's labeled revision 1? That's not the most recent one, Kelly. I sent one out about an hour and a half ago, and I sent it to you and Kevin, and I apologize for the lateness.
1:40 Oh no, that's Tuesday.
I have a problem with.
Okay, I'll find it. 1 sec. Sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Is the fact that this whole deal with the middle school being closed and things, that really has nothing to do with our oversight. But if we don't mention something about that, people are going to think we're not paying attention. And yet,
Well, we actually did mention something about it last time, and it engendered.
Where'd you go, Kevin?
And if we go to our Google Docs, because Richard, I know you're the master at technology.
Yeah, right.
So break out your chisel and stone there. So it was specific comment number 3, lack of a comprehensive project selection process.
Yeah, no, I got that, but it has gotten worse since our last meeting. Not worse, but more.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. And I will say this, I mean, closing schools is something that's happening in the background. But aside from that, one of the things that the committee members may not know that I know has been a critical piece that we've been working on, if you've seen any board meetings, is doing a modernization program plan and evaluations of each of the sites and their needs. And I think that work kind of is responding to that question or comment that the committee made, which is, how do you decide which projects you choose? Oh, Skip has this. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, Barbara and I are graced with being able to sit on the middle school redesign committee, and staff can certainly speak to this, but the actual middle school issue, I think, is pretty well closed. The trustees have bought in on it and all that. But what isn't closed, and what Kevin was alluding to with comment 3, and it's still in this matrix that I've been working on, is the fact that, at least to my view, Mike can speak to this, there is no comprehensive overall 10-year program, excuse me, or 10-year study, or however you want to characterize it, that addresses the declining and projected to continue student population drop and the overwhelming amount of, I'm kind of editorializing here, excess capacity. Now, lest anybody jump in and say that's outside the purview of the Measure H Oversight Committee, I merely refer you to the Education Code, which says that the Oversight Committee may look at, but is not limited to, the following items. And I can cite you the Ed Code chapter or section that deals with that. To the extent that, lesson learned, we have probably not economically spent money. The River School rebuild is probably a good example, and certainly the money on American Canyon Middle School #2 to be thrown into that group. I think it's germane for us to continue to push for a long-term comprehensive study that addresses what we foresee as a 10-year decline, at least a 10-year decline in student enrollment. But I don't think we ought to rehash the middle school closure per se, nor the elementary school closure. And I'll get off the soapbox.
So
Well,
I do want to turn it over to Mike so he can
Yeah.
explain that. But what I was in the midst of commenting on just before that is actually there is a process now.
Yeah,
And I'll let Mike take you through what it is.
Yeah,
That was
and
what I was trying to get to.
So I'm comfortable if the group wants to make a recommendation, but just so you know, so let's talk demographers and enrollment. I believe what we do right now is we go out, it's either 6 or 7 years at the most. So to speak to your point, Skip, I mean, I don't disagree with 10 years. It's just, it gets wonky going that far out, meaning it's just too hard to predict.
7 years is certainly fine. I mean, it's better than what we've done so far. And
Yeah,
even
I think
it's probably a little wonky.
I think the demographer King and Associates is very comfortable with a 5-year with going out 5 years, but I do think they've provided us at times, if we've asked, up to 7 years. But we annually have them update their studies on a regular basis, because it's really crucial now that we're making super informed decisions. Not that it wasn't in the past, but it's, you know, with the decline. And then you put COVID into this mix. It's really challenging to figure out exactly what is our enrollment. And then to compound that, we have the Watson Ranch down in American Canyon that, you know, is going to happen at some point, but to what extent and to what pace is still to be determined. And then in Napa, we have the Napa Pipe one that, again, is also to how we have an idea of what the scope of it is, but what's the pace of that construction, and then from there, what is it going to generate from a kid standpoint, both in Napa and in Watson Ranch. And then when it took me a while to get my feet underneath me, and I don't mean that as an excuse, but you know, to speak to your point and others that have asked, like, how do you make decisions? Well, that was a great, opportunity for me to go take inventory. Like, how do we, as you know, talking to staff, how are we making these decisions? And there at one point was that there was a facilities master plan, I think, that was adopted in November of 2016. But there was nothing that, you know, that was sort of like led the, or maybe it was, November of 2015. And that's what led for the Measure H school bond. But then was it executed on? You can make the argument a lot of that was not executed in the way it was listed in the facilities master plan. So that's the work that Kelly spoke to you about, that we've gone through, where we have had worked with staff and with a consultant to help us, determine what are just our modernization needs. Just strictly, what do we need to do to keep our sites from essentially falling apart? Because we do know we have a lot of work to do. In addition to that study, we also asked the consultant to give us some information around our portables. How old our portables are, and what it would cost. And we asked them to provide us 3 different options: what it would cost for us to replace the portables in kind for new portables. The second option was, what would it cost us to replace the portables with modular buildings? And then the third one was, what would it cost us to replace the portables with stick-built buildings? Obviously, the price goes up from portables to modulars to stick-built. And so and that was for a 1-for-1 exchange, basically. Then, so that was great. Got that information. We presented that to the board at a previous board meeting. I think it was in January, or maybe it was February. And then staff here, myself, Kelly, and another consultant started getting to work on what is it by school site. What do we need to, looking at enrollment, and then looking at the portables, and then looking at some other district facility standards. What is it that we need for each school site to kind of develop an overall, to speak to your point, sorry, it's a little long-winded, an overall comprehensive plan to address the site needs at the individual site needs, the individual sites, the needs at the individual sites, if that makes sense. We are concentrating on sites that, like, for example, there's 13 elementary schools that are old and haven't been touched in years. So we're concentrating on those. We're looking at the high schools and the middle schools, and we just haven't got to those yet. What we're finding in this is, even though the consultant with the modernization program plan gave us figures, for example, for the portable replacement for 1-for-1, we know through looking at the enrollment data, and we're using we're using 25, 26 enrollment projections at this point. We're not going to have to replace all these portables. I mean, we're not even going to come close to those sort of thing. So it's going to help really, I think, hopefully this is answering some of your questions, but it is really going to help inform us going forward on the work that needs to be done at the sites. The really tricky part is, more than likely, we're probably still going to at some point have to entertain, at least look at school closures. I mean, unless things really change, dramatically, we're going to probably have to do that at some point. But right now, we've taken, as you know, we've taken some pretty big measures on our part, and we need to now we need to let my staff do some work. What I just described in a kind of a high level. And help us inform where we're going to go next as well too, because that's all going to be factored in. It was really easy with school closures I shouldn't say really easy, but essentially easy with Mount George and Yountville, because they're, they'd kind of been talked about. They're on the periphery, Yountville's in Yountville, and Mount George is kind of out in the county. But now we're talking about elementary schools that essentially are in the central spine of Napa. And you've got to be really careful on which one you're going to choose to potentially look at closing, because there's a ripple effect all over the place. Whereas, you close Yountville, there's a ripple effect, but it's not quite as dramatic as you have in central Napa. So anyways, I'll stop for a second here. Sorry about the long-windedness.
That's very encouraging to hear. And in light of that, I would think that we're talking about, originally, I think we're talking about Section 4.3, number 6, and the 2016 to 17 is where this thing first reared its ugly head. And so what we ought to do, in fairness to the district, is factor in some of Mike's comments that are germane to Measure H in the specific comments of this year.
So Kelly, can you pull up Skip's? Did you find his email?
I did not. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but I do not have an email any more recent from Skip since yesterday. So if it would be possible for you to resend it to us, Skip, it doesn't have to be right this second. I don't know, Kevin, if you see it. He said he sent it to both of us.
I may have.
I did not. I only saw the one from Tuesday, but I'm behind. I was out yesterday.
Well, it was kind of busy around here. I'll resend it.
Okay.
And anyway, it's. I guess I could resend it to Kelly, and then Kelly can resend it to everybody, or whatever,
absolutely,
without any violation of the.
And if you could send it to me if it's in an Excel format, in a live Excel format, that way if we make changes and highlight, I can do it right in that document. That would be excellent.
I'll send you both the Excel and a PDF.
Thank you. That'd be great. And then the item we were just discussing, the comprehensive selection process for comments, I actually show it as 4.3 number 1 from 1819. If it occurs earlier, can you, maybe someone help me out?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I think we are merging the 1617 item number 6
Okay,
with 1819 number 1.
you got it.
Um,
Well,
so
but also 16, 17, number 6, to the extent that in one case, we were talking about revising the facilities master plan in light of the declining enrollment. Now we're talking about a comprehensive plan, so on and so forth. But
right,
anyway, we can nail this down further.
Great. So we can certainly reference both of those with some summary notes on the discussion we just had. Excellent.
so Mike, the explanation you provided, I assume there's a document somewhere that provides goalposts on measures being undertaken currently to determine campus needs and allocate potential future priorities for capital improvements.
Everything we have, the one thing that we have that's public, Kevin, is the modernization program plan study. Everything
Modernization
else,
program study.
yeah, everything else that I mentioned is still in sort of a developmental stage, and has been we've had discussions internally, but we have not done any sort of formal, any kind of formal presentation to the Board of Education or gone out public. That is eventually one of our goals, because we have to explain the whole big picture, from the declining enrollment to the state of our facilities, to the funding resources we have or don't have. But again, I would support a comment in there around that it's words to the effect of it's encouraging about the program plans, the modernization program plan study, that it's encouraging that the district is looking out at enrollment and factoring that into the equation around the schools and work and previous work and future work that could be done on that. And that we would encourage them to continue to do this, so that they're making really well-informed decisions, and to develop a comprehensive plan or something to that effect. I mean, I think
and we can change that language to make it be the point in time at which this report is covering. So at the point in time at which this report is covering, that MPP would even have been in its infancy, but
That's
we
right.
were definitely talking and planning. So we can soften the language to make sure that it doesn't get out ahead of what this report is.
I have a comment about that too. The Measure H passed because of optimism about the growth of Napa and boosterism, but now we're in a much more negative, and we already know about the deteriorating schools and the fires and the COVID. I mean, and so we have a real negative thing. So I think, Mike, you have to be really careful not to just think, oh, the sky is falling, and then put ourselves in a different problem, that you'll have not enough thing and have to start all over again.
You're right, Richard, and so it is. It's like I talked about. When you start talking about any kind of elementary closure with the schools in the central spine of Napa, you got to be really thoughtful. And the exact same thing what you're talking about, you have to be really thoughtful around that. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that the data in 2016 that I've been able to find has definitely depicted a decline, maybe not as rapid as we've unearthed, but it's been shared with us. But I do believe that it was there. This isn't something that happened, overnight, or that we can blame on the fires or COVID.
No, I don't.
It had been a general trend. I think COVID and the fires in some instances have exacerbated it. But the other thing, the birth rates are the birth rates.
I just think boosterism, we're doing well, that makes people sort of not just, oh, that's just a glitch, and not really take it seriously.
Yeah, well, and there was some marketing around Measure H as growth, and they were that was around charter schools. If you want want the honest truth, that was what it was based on, was growth.
Well, and
back to the getting the annual report done.
Thank you, Kevin.
We will have that discussion next time, rest assured. I'm sure there's lively passions on each side of the representation and contribution of Measure H funds to or not to charter schools. All right, so Kelly, can you pull up?
Maybe for now, I'll just pull up the one
Yeah,
that Skip
exactly.
sent
Yep.
me for the sake
Yep.
of not having anything, and
Yep.
I'm taking notes on that one. So
Okay, so
I'll pull that up now.
if unless anyone speaks up, we're gonna assume that the premise that we're gonna take this template and pull back in some sort of high-level summary of the status of specific comments included in previous annual reports. Unless anybody has any objections to that, I think that's the path forward. Excuse me.
Are there any other items on this list that committee members would like to close? I know in the past we closed some. It looks like in the discussion we just had, we'd also closed 4.3 number 6 and 4.3 number 1. Are there any other ones here that we want to?
Yeah, so let's
close?
if I could, sorry, Kelly. So Skip,
Go
maybe
for
I can jump back and forth, and I can do colors and you can do verbiage.
Yeah, this gives you an idea of what we were, or what I was headed for, what I suggested. I have since added a third column and split out status. So the status is more overt, closed, open, NA, whatever, and comments, I call it comments / assessment summary in the third column so that it makes more sense as you casually read through this. But yeah, I think the last thing was when you ended up, I think, with something like 28, 29 comments using the actual report as the genesis for the input to the spreadsheet. For instance, 2018, 2019, the first 2 comments had to do with a review of specific comments from the prior reports, as opposed to a comprehensive project selection process like you see on this spreadsheet. Regardless,
I see what you're saying. Okay, yep, sorry, go ahead.
I went back to the original report as it was issued, or the reports as they were issued. Anyway, so it's changed somewhat, and I will also offer to draft a more comprehensive comment, trying to factor in what I think Mike was saying, and that can be reviewed by staff to see that it's accurate. And then this basically then comprises section 4.3 of the 2019-2020 annual report. There are no new comments. And here's where all these previous specific comments we've made stand today. And with your colorization of this, then it's easy for somebody to look at that and say, okay, this is what's still germane. This is done. This was not applicable.
Right. From the committee's perspective. So Skip, in your new version under 2018 through 2019, so you're right. So last year we listed comments 1 and 2, I think, for each of the previous 2 annual reports. But for what you have listed here under status, do you still show that as awaiting CBOC evaluation of NBUSD's 2020 response?
Yeah, it's probably my ignorance, but I couldn't find anywhere where the district responded and we had ascertained whether we accepted, rejected, agree with, or whatever. If somebody's got that info, get it to me, please, or point me in the right direction.
So
Right.
for some of them, I guess the question would be, are you looking for a response in writing or discussions in meetings? Like, for example, 4.3 number 2 annual report 1819. Publication of demographic metrics. I know we've mentioned this in meetings before, but the district does publish their demographics in a public meeting annually, I believe. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. It has to be adopted by the board.
Yeah, so that is something that occurs every year. So I don't know if that's something that the committee needs us to put in writing, or is it acceptable for us to just share that information with you?
Personally, I think comments that are not in writing, verbal comments are probably worth the paper they're written on. So yeah, shoot me an email.
Okay, so it sounds like the action item maybe for Mike and myself would be to also go through this list and provide you some comments that, you know, the committee or the representatives that you guys, you know, accept to finish this work, and you guys can decide whether those responses are acceptable or not, but it might, maybe that's the best way to do it, just to keep it comprehensive in one list. Question mark.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, one more time, Kelly, you're saying provide a response to each of these items?
Yeah, I'm saying rather than, you know, send an email like for each one of these things, or, you know, kind of addressing them ad hoc, we could certainly take this list and give you, you know, a brief response on each one. And then those of you finalizing the report can decide whether or not that is acceptable, or if you want to remain, have the item remain open or not.
Okay. Skip, since you're one of the people finalizing the report.
Oh, I think that the intent is not to beat the district up unfairly, but
Right, right.
but we do need to, I think at some point, and the closer we get to wrapping up this thing, and this thing being Measure 8, then hopefully we owe it to the next bond committee to put something on the table that gives them some guidelines on what we thought was important and what the district's response was, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's a great format for doing that. So we can definitely do that, and I can draft something up and run it by Mike, and we can work on it and get it back to the committee rather quickly.
Okay. Okay. So let's just, if we could briefly, maybe in the next 2 minutes, well, next 5 minutes, run through the comments here on the 1819, because those seem to be the most open ones, right? So we talked about comment number 1. You know, and we talked that it's not necessarily anymore about American County Middle School or Mount George or Yountville, but it's about, you know, the go forward process for running down the remaining projects on Measure H and setting up a program of how the district's going to economically and efficiently address go forward projects. We talked about number 2, which is the demographic metrics, right? And, you know, I think the loose end there, Kelly, is, you know, some of us, you know, with the exception of Richard, aren't necessarily technically sophisticated, and making sure that the committee gets linked to the annual distribution of demographic data. But, you know, we can certainly in the notes note that, you know, the annual demographic data is distributed at meeting XYZ and approved by the Board of Trustees, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, number 3. You know, that was a positive comment. As far as, you know, the, I guess having
with key analytics and
right as far as having everything, you know, having the reports from key analytics, and it being able to do everything, include make you a latte, and having it all posted on the website.
I'm going to talk to Patty about that. I haven't gotten any lattes.
Okay. Use of third party to manage Measure H projects. I'm not aware of any action or any consideration the district has done or not done relative to addressing this comment, or any actions they have or haven't taken. So
if I can jump in, I did see a response that basically said that in light of the current economic situation and so on and so forth, I mean, you know, the direct and ancillary costs of having a direct employee as opposed to a contract, that they felt, the district felt that what they were doing right now was reasonable. And so I've changed this one. I think I marked that one closed in light of that.
okay.
Is that on your new version, Skip?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that may warrant further discussion. All right, and then primer on capital and maintenance funding. Again, I think there's just a response that needs to be had. I'm sure there's things that are out there, and I think there's been improvements on the website as well, but I might be getting my comments confused with a comment from the previous year.
I thought Rob put something out. I don't have it in front of me, but
I thought he did. I thought there was something on the website.
I think, if not here, I saw it in the middle school redesign go around. Mike, can you talk to that?
Skip, can you repeat that? I had to take a call about, I have a big water leak going on right now simultaneously.
You're
I'm
very
glad it's
quiet,
not-
Mike. Can
I'm
you?
glad it's not
adjust
me
your-
this time.
I said, can you repeat that? I had to take a call because I have a big water leak going on right now. Sorry about that. I had to take a call.
Didn't Rob put something out addressing the capital and maintenance funding mechanism or mechanisms?
I have to ask him, but I'm pretty sure, I think he does have something like that, but I'd have to double check with him.
There is something on the website that is, Kelly, maybe you can go to it as far as how construction in California schools addressed. Maybe I
Yeah, and
Maybe I just dreamt that, but I don't
no,
know
there
that
is.
addresses, I don't know that this addresses, well, anyway, it might address this comment. So,
the other thing I was going to say is I don't know, Mike, if that comment would also be addressed by directing the committee to the LCAP. I'm just thinking that that would have allocations for your maintenance funding, or at least recommendations.
Yeah,
right?
well,
That might have information.
Well, it's spelled out there, there's no more funding from the state for maintenance or for capital improvements at all.
Is this what you're thinking, Kevin?
I'm sorry, let me, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
no, so there's a, I don't know if it's an ed code, but there's a percentage of your school, overall school budget that is supposed to be, that districts are required or supposed to, allocate that money to the maintenance programs at your school site. It's misleading in that you think that it's supposed to be, I think it's up to 3% is what can be allocated of the entire budget, of the general fund budget to the maintenance department. But it also covers the operational costs, which is meaning that the employees and all that stuff. It does not go strictly to deferred maintenance.
Capital, yeah.
On that. So it is a bit misleading. I think that's what you're referring to, Skip, that's what Rob's statement is around that, because there's no more. And that's that when they brought in they had the new, well, it's called the LCAP, local control agency plan, I think is what it stands for. That the idea of the state providing any kind of deferred maintenance money sunsetted. And then they just said, you're going to take 3% of your overall budget. You're supposed to take and keep yourself aligned for state funding. You got to do this, or any kind of state matching money. You have to do this, and but then they just they didn't give you any extra money for capital improvement. So like I said, it goes for your majority of it goes. Well, I shouldn't say the majority. A strong percentage of it goes for just your operating costs.
So for consideration of that comment, we could certainly reference, to Kevin's point, the website, and then to Mike's point, information on what we do now with the LCAP and things like that, and then kind of give you guys a little summary, and then you can either accept or continue to keep that item open.
Yeah, and Kelly, I think we should we should also run it by Rob, make sure he's comfortable with that language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the intent here was exactly what you said, Mike, that, to just paint a clearer picture based on what the ed code requirements are, the constraints and limitations as far as what can and cannot be used for maintenance versus capital, CapEx or OpEx.
Right.
What that 3% really encompasses, right? 3% does not mean you get to spend it on capital items, right?
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay, so does anybody have any other, so I think the path forward is on the specific comments is that we're going to circulate Skip's current version. Okay. Kelly et al. Is going to provide a brief narrative in her working hours from 2:11 a.m. to 3 a.m. Of any responses to any of the items on that list. And then I guess next item is Skip and I, Skip, you drew the short straw, would color code them accordingly, and then we would redistribute to the entire, step four would be, we would redistribute to the entire group here via Kelly. Does anybody have any other comments to any of Jason, Jill, Scott, anybody?
No, I appreciate you doing so much of the work, though. Thank you.
No comments here.
Okay,
Were you just checking to see if I was still paying attention?
I was just trying to make sure you weren't reading up on ASME welding procedures, that's all.
You guys are on fire today. This is awesome.
I'm gonna attend Rich's school so I can learn to be like him.
No, that's a one room schoolhouse with the one person, Jill. Thank you for that, though.
I was
Oh,
gonna say, I
boy.
think they broke the mold.
Objection. Actually, that might be a term of art. I mean, I think that would qualify. Richard, I think your name qualifies as a term of art.
All right.
So that would bring us into the appendices of the report, and just a
Right.
time check, we're past 6
Yep, we're
p.m.
past. So
But we do need to maybe run through the appendices, and then we'll need a vote to approve the report with the revisions noted in this meeting, which will all be covered in the meeting minutes. And maybe also to empower Skip and Kevin to implement those changes and complete the report. Obviously I'll be doing the clerical work, but I think, I don't know, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, and I guess, thank you for that order. So before we jump on the appendices, Skip, I'm just going to say, I don't know that I agree. Let me say it this way, on 18 to 19, your item number 4, I don't know that I agree that that's closed. I think we will need to wait on Kelly's summary of that, but
That's
we'll
fine.
take it from there. But yeah, that would be the path from a housekeeping perspective, Kelly. That would be the path forward.
Great.
So let's run through the appendices, and most of it's boilerplate, with the exception of, I think there's some discussion to be had on B and C.
Great.
So,
So ballot measure text, easy.
yep, we've seen this before. We've all commented on this before. Okay, and then B. Okay, so just cutting to the chase here. These are each of the previous year's approved implementation plans. So trying to get this right. So February of last year was one version of the implementation, was the last version that was approved within this fiscal year. In December of this year, the next implementation was approved, and that is the implementation plan that the district is working to. So
Yes, that's the current one, absolutely.
the committee had recommended that that one be included, that one being the December 2020 plan for information purposes only, since that is the plan that the district is working to. And I have been informed that our barrister in residence has issues with that. So Carlos, can you comment on that?
It's not an issue so much as because there isn't a legal provision here that we're butting up against it anyway. Just a consideration either to reference it outside of the report or to consider including an explanatory note that the implementation plan is a living document. Because I think what you want to avoid is someone from the public seeing the implementation plan as being set in stone and the imprimatur of the committee being sort of placed on that. Because you've seen the implementation plan change as the district's sort of the capital program progresses.
Right.
So you might consider, and this is just in my experience as a lawyer that deals a lot with disclosure. Sometimes, no matter how much you try to explain a thing, the reader will read whatever they want into it because they're coming into the document with a conception that you're not aware of.
Right.
So sometimes from a disclosure perspective, less is more, but not to tell you to strip it out because you have to, but if you're going to include it, you might consider an explanatory sort of note as to what type of document the implementation plan is.
So speaking on behalf of the committee, I think we would be absolutely fine with a clarification note that it's a living document and that the development of that living document or the modifications to that living document is outside the purview of the Bond Oversight Committee.
Right.
And that the living document that is within the fiscal year covered by the report is B5, and B6 is enclosed for reference purposes only, as it is the most recent one. Something along those lines. Absolutely fine with caveats and clarifications. Anybody have any issues with that? Any objections?
No, the alternative is if the most recent version is available on the district's website, which I think it is, we could just provide a
Yeah,
link.
there you go. Yeah.
and-
So
I like that better.
That actually, Skip, is something I think we breezed by that, Kevin, when we talked the other day in the report, but it is something that you could put in your cover letter too, is a
Yeah, that's
link to
true.
that report
Yeah.
online to say, this is governed by this report and this fiscal year. For more information about the current status of the implementation plan, please see XYZ link.
Yep, I'm good with that. Let's do that.
And that the committee's review so far addresses only expenditures made through the conclusion of June 30, 2020, and that the implementation plan, because the other thing you don't want is for people to assume that you've concluded that the district has already spent all the money in compliance with the bond project list.
Got it.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And the cover letter, the template cover letter covers that. It's very specific about the fiscal years and all that good stuff. Okay.
I had another question just because I didn't see it. Is there a explicit statement in here regarding the actual conclusions regarding expenditures? Did I miss that?
I think it's at the beginning and it's in the
It is.
boilerplate language. I think we just breezed by it.
Okay.
Hold on. But
Yeah,
that's
it
an
is.
excellent
Yeah,
question.
it's in there. It's in there.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
It references the ed code and all that stuff.
Okay, let's see. Purpose.
Nope, you got to go down next page.
The next page. No, this is the
Nope.
start of it.
Go
It's up
back up.
further.
It's there. Keep going. Up, isn't it section, isn't in accordance with? Okay,
This is giving your activities and limitations, general comments of the committee, the purpose of the report, the approach, the use of funds based on the report submitted at the committee. No funds were used for any teacher administrative salaries or other, okay, so does that cover us there?
now there's a, if it's not in here, it's definitely in the cover letter.
Is that what you're looking for though, Carlos, or do we need to be more explicit?
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, I think that's fine. You might consider saying whether the bond proceeds were spent in compliance with the bond project list.
Okay, hold on one second.
So.
I was going to pull up your cover letter too, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks. I was trying to get to it. Just for the record, the chair is not here. There we go. There's the cover letter. So in conclusion, keep going, Kelly. Here we go. That's what's in the cover letter.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed it.
No, that's okay. I'm glad. Better to ask.
Okay, all right, so we're 17 minutes over, so let's jump back to the appendix list.
Almost there, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, so we covered B, and essentially we're going to do a reference in the cover letter instead.
Yep, yep, we're
Okay,
gonna do that.
great.
That's,
So that stays.
that keeps us out of trouble. Okay,
Oh,
so.
okay, yeah, this was the other one.
So Appendix C, so this is essentially just different, my words, different filters out of the key analytics report. So the 100-page report would be the Measure H expenditure report for fiscal year 2019 to 2020. And then there's different filters that we can run out of there. So, we had listed, in the intent here is to be, to provide anybody who has insomnia the opportunity to go through the reports at night. So we had soft costs and hard costs, maybe in the flipped order. Kelly, I thought it might be interesting to run an IT report of all the IT, sort of like to that pie chart.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to include the reports that support at least not the budget items, but the expenditure or encumbrance items for the different pie charts in here. Open to, whatever anybody wants to do here, but it's pretty easy to select a couple parameters and spit out the report from Key Analytics, right?
Yeah, the one that we really want to make sure is in there that we wouldn't want to get rid of is the Measure H expenditure report for 1920 because of the committee's charge. So my only guardrail is don't get rid of that one.
No, that has to stay. That has to stay. I agree with that completely. The one thing, Kelly, we talked about was, I think we talked about was, reports by, I don't know what the grouping would be, but something that would show ad services for designers and change orders for contractors. I don't know. I'm assuming that's easy to spit out of Key Analytics.
It's actually not. And I explored it after you and I spoke. That would have to be manually done by staff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, that is something that we could do if the committee feels really strongly about it, or it's something that we could prepare as an informational item for a future committee meeting, like that be one of our financial deep dives. I could certainly prepare that, but Key Analytics does not spit out change order versus non-change order encumbrances.
Does it spit out final adjusted? Does it spit out final adjusted encumbrance versus original encumbrance?
Yes, it does. But the problem with it is that during the course of projects that cross 2 fiscal years, POs have to be reduced to 0 and rolled to the next fiscal year. So it shows all that when I pull the report, which will be very confusing to the public. It's confusing to me because I don't work in school accounting. But we have projects that sometimes cross 3 fiscal years, which means that if you run that report, the public is going to see a PO that is reduced down to 0 and then brought back up to like $10 million and then brought back down. And that could lead to confusion. So we would have to do a manual report on that.
Skip, what say you? Value, no value?
Leave it out.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments?
Leave it out.
Leave it out. Thanks, Richard. Okay.
We put a lot of stuff in.
I think it would be completely confusing, but Kelly, we would like to see that addressed at a future meeting.
Absolutely.
I think that's important. Okay. Anybody else have any other reports they'd like to see issued out of Key Analytics? Okay, Kelly, one thing I don't know if it goes here or not, but remember that escalation curve we had from the one of the PowerPoints?
Yeah.
I would include that here. I think it wants to be here in this group.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
keep going.
The escalation curve, which of the cost, you mean?
There was a graphic that had along the x-axis, it had each of the bond measures, and I'm going to say from like 2005
Oh, yeah, okay.
to current. And then it had a normalized price index as of the start of the first bond measure and how that went over time. So I forget the bond measure that you and Skip were on, M or N, but the curve was flat during that time relatively. And then you
Because of
saw
the
it,
recession.
right, you saw it spike. And guess what time frame? 14, 15, 16, 17. So it was a way to just communicate the escalation that each of the bond measures were dealing with. So, okay, next, Appendix D.
These are just your audit reports. They're attached.
Yep. And then
These are your meeting minutes also attached. This is the State of California constitutional article that governs your existence as a committee. This is the past specific comments which will now get replaced with the index
Right,
that we created.
right,
So
right.
this will go away.
Yep.
And I also will be attaching the CBOC bylaws, which are already attached and in your folder. This was a recommendation of Kevin. It's not something we had attached in past, but I thought it was a good informational item. And then just some photos of some of our projects. So that, again, Kevin made the recommendation of adding photos, which I thought was pretty valuable. I tried to not bombard the report with too many, but give a kind of a wide example of the different facilities and what went on with them.
River School picture is really not very good, Kelly.
You want a different one? You want one of the front?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it doesn't really.
Yeah, we should do one in the front.
Sure, that's fine.
I mean, the sun's sort of behind it. It just,
Yeah, no, we should. It's about showing. Yeah, it's about celebrating our successes, right?
Absolutely, we'll replace it.
Okay, sorry, Kelly, I didn't mean it that way. All right. Okay, anybody have any comments on the appendixes?
way too late, Kevin, but we should probably have some, well, just to have some comment on there as or some graph or something to show how much of the bond money has actually been paid back. I mean, it's too late to bring this up, but you know, I mean, a certain amount of it, we took a lot of money out and part of it's been paid back. I don't know. It just struck me. Probably a bad idea, but if the public's actually going to see this, which probably is not going to be the case.
I actually agree with him. Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry that you agree with him, Jill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you
Okay.
do it. It would be something simple, actually, because you want to make it as simple as possible. But that's for Rob to deal with. Oh yeah, this is how much we paid back already over these.
So it could be as easy as a pie chart that where the
Yeah.
100% piece of pie is the full cost of the bond,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming we have somewhere, right, Kelly?
Yes,
Or we could
yeah,
calculate- I mean, Rob-
that lives in Rob's
Rob's
report,
world,
but
right?
we certainly have access to that information. Absolutely.
Okay, so Richard, where would you put that in the order?
I don't know, appendix maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we.
No. I mean, I think I think it can go up front, but I
Yeah.
mean, would you list that at the end as chart
Yeah.
number 11?
This is what we've taken. And this is what we paid back, and you know,
Okay,
to date, sort of, or at the end of 20. Well,
okay,
Yeah, so because everything's been sold,
yeah.
so
Okay.
so that's complete. So now you would want to know what has been paid back.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
It might not,
You should do it off the 269,000, a million too, not over what it's going to cost over 30 years, but
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Carlos. What were you gonna say?
I could probably get you that figure pretty easily.
That would be really great.
Yeah.
And I hate to do this, and with all due respect to everybody, but at 7 o'clock, I have to speak at my children's all school meeting. And
We're
I
gonna
at
be done
very
before
least
then.
have to be in the car on a Zoom at 7.
Okay, we're going to be done here in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to do that. But,
Nope,
you know,
nope.
the kiddos come first.
Yep. Okay, not Richard. Okay, you've been putting your
Not
points.
Richard.
Okay, and does anybody have any comments to that? Adding, I think it would be chart number 11, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
I have one comment. If I understood what Richard was saying correctly, he was opting for the cost of the bond and not the true cost of payback. But we made a comment, a specific comment,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, about the fact that the district needs to be honest. That honest is a wrong word, but the people who vote on these bonds ought to know what the true cost is, just like when you buy an automobile on time. So I disagree. It ought to be the true projected cost of the bond, how much has been retired at this point.
I agree with that.
That's fine. That's fine. I have no, I just think that there should be something that someplace that shows we're paying this back and where we are in terms of it.
So what do you mean by true projected cost? Is that like true interest cost over time as the value of money deteriorates? Is that what you're talking about?
No, the
Yeah.
whole P&I, right? Principal and interest. That's what you're saying, Skip.
Principal and interest is pretty easy to generate.
Yeah. Right.
And the
I
payment.
asked- yeah, at one point I had asked Don Evans, this is back on when I was sitting on Measure M, I think, you know, what are we really looking at in terms of the real cost of the bond? And he gave me a multiplier, and I think it was like 1.78, but don't quote me on that. And but there is apparently a very easily obtainable true projected cost of the bond at the 30-year retirement. And, you know, that is obviously doesn't look at any refinancing or, you know, there were even some weirder things happening back then with bond financing. But I think it ought to reflect principal plus the interest. That's a short version.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Agreed.
Principal plus interest. Now, the total term of the bond program is going to be a little bit more than 30 years because the district has sold 3 tranches of bonds over time, but I will get the full span of time, principal and interest. I think that's probably easiest expressed as a paragraph rather than a chart, but
I think yeah, I mean, let's see what it comes out at. I think you can have, if it was a pie chart, it would have 2 colors, right?
pretty much.
Yeah. So I
But
think,
it's
go
sort of
ahead,
like,
Jill.
But Kelly, I'll get you the data and you can see what you want to do with it.
Yeah, that's fine. If you just send me the information, we can work on what the format looks like. I appreciate that.
Did you have a comment? I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. I'm
but
gonna take-
mostly just want to have people see, oh, look, we paid this percent back or whatever, so that, so that they feel like you're getting where we stand, just like looking at your car payment or your house.
Well, I think it's along the lines with one of the comments from the first year, right? That, you know, many of the issues we talked about have nothing to do with any of our, it's statutory limited by the state. And this is how school projects are financed. So I think it's a good idea. All right, any other comments, anyone? Okay, with that, we have run through the outline of the report. I think we have agreed to the material changes to the report. The cleanup items we listed already. Jill, we're going to draft you to help.
Okay.
With that, do we have a motion to approve the 2019 to 2020 annual report? Do we have a motion to approve the material changes to the 2019 and 2020 report?
As discussed, so moved.
I second. I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so we have unanimity on the approval of the report as discussed.
When will we see it? You know, you don't have to give me the exact date. I mean, we're talking about,
Well, we're hoping to agendize it for the May 27th board meeting, which means that we would have to have it complete within the week.
okay,
So my
And the-
agenda items for May 27th are due on Wednesday of next week. So we have exactly 1 week.
And if we don't make that, we would take it to the June 10th meeting?
Yeah, I think that we'd like, I would recommend we make it the goal to take it on the May 27th, and then have that be our fallback position. I don't know,
Yeah,
Mike, if you have
yeah,
any
yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
on that.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot for that May 27th meeting.
We are, huh?
can you
We
do it?
are.
Is the meeting going to run till 1 a.m. again?
Only for you, Kevin.
That's right.
In
That's
fact,
right.
in fact, it's not May 20, it won't be May 27th, it'll be May 28th by the time you.
Mike Pearson. Okay. You better be ready. All right. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had, folks. The next meeting is July. Is it on here, Kelly?
Yeah, it's July 14th. And it's okay if you want to meet, I just won't be there. So if you need me there, we'll need to change that date.
Okay. Well, for now, it's July 14th. We'll figure that out when we get closer.
Well, I guess it depends. Are you going to be someplace really cool that we want to go to meet with you?
Depends on if you like to backpack the John Muir Trail or not. But
As a matter of fact, I do.
that's awesome, Jill. I'll have to, then I need to talk with you and compare some stories. But yeah, my one of my kids is wanting to do this, and so I said, okay, I'll help. I'll accompany you. And so
Are you getting ready? Are you?
you know, Richard, I'm sad. No, I mean, I'm ready. I mean, I know I've backpacked a lot, so on that side, but I have put on a few COVID pounds, and I need to take those COVID pounds off
It's
prior
your
to.
feet too, Mike. It's your feet.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good with that. I got to get in a little bit better shape. But
Go to the-
Okay.
go to the
Okay.
park and back and forth.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Okay. It is 6:34 p.m. and we will call this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your collaboration. I do want to make one last comment. So Kelly, do you want to share the comment you made about the Berkeley CBOC versus the Napa CBOC?
So I had to fill in, Mike and Kevin have both heard this story. I had to fill in recently for a colleague of mine who was not able to attend the CBOC meeting at Berkeley. And I will just say this because this is a public meeting and I do not want to disparage the folks in Berkeley because they are also one of our valued clients. But it
Well,
really made
it's a compliment to.
it's a compliment to you
To
all.
us,
It made me
yeah.
very much appreciate the professionalism and the understanding of your roles in this process that this committee has. So I will leave it at that. My experience there made me appreciate you folks very much. So thank you.
You suggesting Berkeley was a little crazier?
we're not
Like I
suggesting
said,
we're
I'll
not
leave it at
suggesting
that.
we're not suggesting anything. We're just very thankful we have all of you and you.
Exactly.
And today was a great example of
All
how well the meeting ran. So thank you all.
Actually, Richard, what Kelly didn't say was that she particularly gained a new appreciation for your humor. All
He's
right.
right. I said
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good meeting. Thanks for the contributions.
Yep.
Jason, good luck reading the
Good
ASME
job,
code.
Kelly. Thanks.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I'm sure you do. Okay. Thanks,
Let's
everybody.
have a good one. Bye.
I'm out.